Before we dive into our story, a little note from us at WooEnglish. We're here to help you learn English through captivating stories, using clear and simple sentences to make learning both effective and enjoyable. If you like our stories and find them helpful, please don't forget to hit the like button. Your likes really encourage us to create more content for you. Plus, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. Your feedback helps us improve and make our stories even more engaging for you. Now, let's get started with our story. Chapter 1: Dreams of the Sea. In the heart of Genoa, a bustling port city where the air is filled with the scent of the sea and the sound of ships creaking, lived a young boy named Christopher Columbus. Christopher was not born into the world of sailors and adventurers. His father was a weaver, a maker of cloths, not dreams of distant lands. Yet from a young age, Christopher felt the pull of the ocean, a call so deep and persistent it was like the sea itself was whispering his name. Every chance he got, Christopher would escape the confines of his home, a modest house filled with the clack-clack of looms and the soft murmur of his family. He would run through the narrow, winding streets of Genoa, making his way to the bustling docks. There, he would sit for hours, watching as ships sailed in and out, their sails billowing like giant wings against the blue sky. He listened to the sailors' stories, tales of distant lands filled with spices, gold, and untold wonders. These stories ignited a fire in Christopher's heart, a burning desire to see these lands for himself. Christopher's father, noticing his son's fascination, often warned him of the dangers of the sea. "It's a hard life, full of risks and uncertainties," he would say, hoping to steer his son towards the more stable path of weaving. But Christopher's dreams were not of threads and looms. They were of waves and sails. "I want to find a new route to the Indies," Christopher would often declare, his eyes shining with determination. "I know it's out there waiting to be discovered." Despite his father's concerns, Christopher's mother saw the unwavering spark in her son's eyes. She understood that some dreams were too powerful to be contained. So she encouraged him, saying, "Follow your heart, Christopher. The sea may be vast and mysterious, but so are the possibilities it holds." As Christopher grew, so did his knowledge of the seas. He spent his days learning all he could about navigation and cartography, the science of maps and charts. He pored over books and maps, studying the routes taken by other explorers. He learned about the stars and how sailors used them to find their way across the endless ocean. Christopher's dream was not just a child's fantasy anymore. It was becoming a plan, a goal he was determined to achieve. However, dreams, especially those as bold as finding a new route to the Indies, are not easily achieved. Christopher faced many challenges. He needed a ship, a crew, and most importantly, the support of someone willing to finance his voyage. He went to the rulers of Portugal, then to England, and finally to Spain, each time telling them about his dream, about the possibility of a new route that would bring untold wealth and glory. But at each turn, he was met with skepticism and rejection. "The sea is too vast," they would say, or "it's too dangerous," or simply "it's impossible." Yet, Christopher did not give up. With each rejection, his resolve only grew stronger. He believed with every fiber of his being that his dream was not just possible, but necessary. He saw himself not just as an explorer, but as a bridge between worlds, a bringer of new knowledge and understanding. Finally, after years of persistence, Christopher's chance came. The Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, decided to take a chance on him. They saw in Christopher not just a dreamer, but a visionary, someone who could lead Spain to new glory and riches. They agreed to sponsor his voyage, providing him with 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The night before he was to set sail, Christopher stood alone on the docks, looking out at the dark, rolling sea. The weight of what he was about to undertake settled on him. He knew the journey would be fraught with dangers, from storms to unknown waters, filled with potential perils. Yet, as he stood there, he felt a sense of peace. For Christopher, the sea was not just a vast expanse of water. It was a path to a new world, a route to the fulfillment of his dreams. The next morning, as the sun rose, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Christopher and his crew set sail. The docks were crowded with people, some cheering, others whispering prayers for their safe return. As the ships moved away from Genoa, Christopher looked back one last time. He knew he was leaving behind everything familiar, but ahead was the promise of discovery, the realization of his lifelong dream. The sea stretched out before them, vast and endless, a world of its own filled with mysteries and wonders waiting to be discovered. Christopher Columbus, the weaver's son from Genoa, was on his way to making history, guided by the stars and driven by a dream that was as boundless as the sea itself. Chapter 2. The Quest for Support. In the days following his decision to set sail to the Indies, Christopher Columbus found himself before a challenge as vast as the sea he yearned to navigate. He needed support, not just any support, but that of a kingdom willing to finance his ambitious voyage. Thus began Columbus's quest, a journey not across the ocean, but through the halls of power in Europe, where he would face skepticism and rejection at every turn. Columbus first set his sights on Portugal, a nation renowned for its seafaring achievements. With a heart full of hope, he presented his plan to the king, outlining the benefits of finding a new route to the Indies. He spoke with passion and conviction, believing that the sheer force of his dream would be enough to persuade the king. However, the response he received was not the one he had hoped for. The king's advisors, seasoned navigators and scholars, doubted Columbus's calculations. They argued that the journey would be far longer and more perilous than he anticipated. Despite their admiration for his courage, they advised the king against sponsoring the voyage. Columbus left Portugal, not with the support he sought, but with a heart heavy with disappointment. Yet, Columbus's spirit remained unbroken. He turned his gaze to England, crossing stormy seas and enduring hardships, driven by the unwavering belief in his mission. In England, he once again found himself explaining his vision, this time to the English monarch. However, much like in Portugal, his ideas were met with skepticism. The court was intrigued, but ultimately unconvinced of the feasibility of his plan. Columbus was learning a hard lesson. That passion and conviction, while vital, were not always enough to sway the minds of those in power. With each rejection, Columbus could have succumbed to despair. Instead, he found within himself a reservoir of determination. He began to understand that true perseverance meant more than simply continuing in the face of failure. It was about adapting, learning from each rejection, and refining his proposals. His failures were not endpoints but stepping stones, each one bringing him closer to his goal. Refusing to be deterred, Columbus turned his sights to Spain, The Spanish kingdom, under the rule of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, was flourishing. Columbus arrived in Spain, a stranger in a foreign land, but his dreams of the Indies burned as brightly as ever. He spent years in Spain, navigating not the sea, but the complex web of court politics. He sought audiences with anyone who would listen, slowly building a small but passionate group of supporters who believed in his vision. During this time, Columbus faced not only the challenge of winning over the Spanish court, but also personal hardships. His quest for support was consuming, leaving little time or resources for anything else. Yet, even in his darkest moments, Columbus's resolve did not falter. He held on to his dream with a tenacity that was both admirable and, to some, incomprehensible. Finally, after years of unwavering effort, Columbus's persistence paid off. Queen Isabella, moved by Columbus's passion, and perhaps seeing the potential glory and wealth his voyage could bring to Spain, decided to sponsor his expedition. It was a moment of triumph, the culmination of years of rejection, hardship, and relentless pursuit of a dream. As Columbus prepared to set sail, backed by the might of Spain, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. It was not the oceans he had navigated, but the doubts of others, the skepticism of the learned, and the indifference of the powerful. Yet, through it all, his belief in his dream had never wavered. Columbus knew that the real voyage was just beginning, that the sea would test him in ways he could scarcely imagine. But he also knew that he had faced rejection and failure and emerged with his conviction intact. The quest for support had been a journey in its own right, a testament to the power of perseverance. Columbus had learned that to achieve something truly great, one must be willing to face rejection, to stand firm in the face of skepticism, and to keep moving forward, even when the path is uncertain. His story was a reminder that the most important journeys often begin not with a step, but with a dream and the courage to pursue it against all odds. Chapter 3. The Spanish Monarchs. In the heart of Spain, within the grand walls of the Alhambra Palace, a meeting took place that would change the course of history. After years of relentless pursuit, Christopher Columbus found himself standing before Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, the monarchs of Spain. The air was thick with anticipation as Columbus once again presented his daring plan to sail west across the uncharted waters of the Atlantic in search of a new route to the Indies. Columbus spoke with a quiet intensity, his words painting pictures of untold riches, exotic spices, and lands ripe for exploration. He spoke not only of wealth, but of glory and the spreading of Christianity. His voice carried the weight of his many rejections, yet it was imbued with an unwavering belief in his dream. The room was silent. All eyes fixed on the Queen and King as they listened to the weaver's son from Genoa, whose vision stretched far beyond the horizons known to them. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand were rulers of a nation that had just emerged victorious from the Reconquista, the reconquest of Spain from the Moors. They were leaders who understood the value of bold ventures and the power of faith. Yet, even for them, Columbus's proposal was a gamble of unprecedented scale. The risks were immense, not just in terms of the financial investment, but also the potential for failure and humiliation. The court advisers were divided. Some saw Columbus's plan as folly, a dreamer's fantasy with little basis in reality. Others, sensing the potential for unparalleled glory and wealth, urged the monarchs to seize this opportunity. The debate was heated, reflecting the enormity of the decision at hand. As Columbus stood before the monarchs, he could feel the weight of the moment. This was his chance to turn his dreams into reality, to prove that his years of perseverance were not in vain. He knew that the fate of his voyage rested in the hands of the two people before him, whose decision would either launch him into the annals of history or send him into obscurity. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Queen Isabella spoke. Her voice was firm, yet it carried a warmth that filled Columbus with hope. She declared her support for his voyage, moved by his conviction and the promise of spreading the Christian faith. King Ferdinand, too, gave his consent, swayed by the potential for expanding Spain's influence and wealth. The decision was made. Columbus would set sail under the flag of Spain, backed by the might and resources of the Spanish crown. The moment was transformative, not just for Columbus, but for Spain and the world. It was the beginning of an epic journey, one that would lead to the discovery of new lands, the encounter of diverse cultures, and the opening of routes that would change trade and exploration forever. As preparations for the voyage began, Columbus found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Ships needed to be outfitted, crews assembled, and supplies gathered. The docks of Palos buzzed with anticipation as the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria were readied for their journey into the unknown. Columbus oversaw the preparations with a keen eye, aware that the success of his mission depended on the strength of his ships and the skill of his crew. The people of Spain, from commoners to nobles, were caught up in the excitement of the expedition. Some viewed Columbus as a visionary about to embark on a noble quest, while others whispered doubts, wondering if the ships would simply fall off the edge of the world. But amidst the skepticism and awe, there was a palpable sense of being on the brink of something monumental. On the eve of departure, Columbus stood on the deck of the Santa Maria, looking out at the horizon. The sea was calm, its vastness a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Yet Columbus felt a sense of peace. His years of struggle, of facing rejection and ridicule, had led to this moment. He was no longer just a dreamer chasing an impossible fantasy. He was an explorer, armed with the support of a nation and the courage to venture into the unknown. The decision of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand to sponsor Columbus's expedition was a leap of faith, a gamble that would either bring Spain unimaginable glory or end in failure. It was a turning point that marked the beginning of an era of exploration, a moment when hope and ambition set the sails for a journey that would reshape the world. As the dawn broke on the day of departure, the ships set sail, disappearing into the horizon. Spain watched as Columbus and his crew ventured into the unknown, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of a nation. The voyage was a testament to the power of belief and the pursuit of dreams, a journey that started with the courage of a single man and the decision of two monarchs to embrace the unknown. Chapter 4. Preparations for the Voyage. As the first light of dawn broke over the Spanish port of Palos, a bustling hub of activity emerged, centered around three ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. These vessels, once simple cargo ships, were about to embark on a voyage into the unknown. The air was filled with the sound of hammers and saws, the creaking of wood, and the shouts of men at work. It was here, amidst the chaos and excitement, that the preparations for Christopher Columbus's historic voyage began. Columbus oversaw the preparations with a keen eye, understanding that the success of his journey depended on meticulous planning and unwavering determination. He knew that every rope secured, every barrel of supplies loaded, and every sailor chosen played a crucial role in the voyage ahead. The first task was to ensure the ships were seaworthy. The Santa Maria, Columbus's flagship, required the most attention. It was a now, larger and slower than its companions, but capable of carrying ample supplies and crew. The Niña and the Pinta were caravels, smaller and more agile, ideal for exploration. Each ship was carefully inspected and reinforced, their hulls strengthened to withstand the treacherous ocean waves. Gathering supplies was a monumental effort. Columbus stocked the ships with enough food, water, and provisions to last the crew for several months. Barrels of salted meat, fish, biscuits, and cheese were loaded into the holds, along with casks of fresh water and wine. He also included trade goods, such as beads, bells, and other trinkets, hoping to establish friendly relations with any indigenous peoples they might encounter. Forming the crew was perhaps Columbus's greatest challenge. Many sailors were wary of venturing into unknown waters, fearing the myths of sea monsters and the edge of the world. Columbus needed men who were not only skilled but also willing to face the unknown. He sought out seasoned sailors, navigators, and craftsmen, offering them the promise of adventure and the chance for glory and riches. Among the key members of the expedition were the Pinzon brothers, Martín Alonso and Vicente Yáñez, experienced seamen from Palos who joined as captains of the Pinta and the Niña, respectively. Their knowledge of the sea and leadership skills were invaluable to Columbus. There was also Diego de Arana, a trusted officer appointed as the master-at-arms, responsible for maintaining order among the crew. As the days passed, the sense of anticipation grew. The crew began to bond, united by the shared excitement and uncertainty of the journey ahead. Columbus encouraged this camaraderie, knowing that teamwork and mutual support would be crucial for overcoming the challenges they would face. The night before their departure, Columbus addressed his crew. Standing before the men who had chosen to join him on this perilous journey, he spoke not of the dangers they would face, but of the hope and the promise of what lay beyond the horizon. He spoke of charting new paths and discovering new lands, of the honor they would bring to Spain and themselves. It was a speech that ignited a fire in the hearts of his men, binding them together with a sense of purpose and determination. The next morning, as the ships were readied for departure, the port of Palos came alive with the gathering crowd. People from all walks of life, from curious onlookers to family members of the crew, came to witness the historic moment. There were tears and farewells, prayers and blessings, as the sailors made their final preparations. With the tide in their favor, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria set sail, leaving the safety of the harbor for the vastness of the Atlantic. As the shoreline faded from view, the reality of their mission set in. Ahead of them lay uncharted waters, unknown challenges, and the promise of discovery. The preparations for the voyage had been a testament to human endeavor, a mix of courage, determination, and hope. Under Columbus's leadership, a diverse crew of adventurers had come together, each playing a crucial role in the journey that lay ahead. It was a journey not just of exploration, but of teamwork and perseverance, a journey that would forever change the course of history. Chapter 5. Setting Sail. On the morning of August 3rd, 1492, the port of Palos was alive with anticipation. The sun had barely risen, casting a golden glow over the three ships that bobbed gently in the harbor, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Today was the day Christopher Columbus and his crew would set sail on a voyage into the unknown, in search of a new route to the Indies. As the crews made their final preparations, the air buzzed with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. For many, this was the start of an adventure the likes of which they had never before imagined. Yet, beneath the excitement lay an undercurrent of fear. They were about to venture into uncharted waters, guided only by the stars and Columbus's conviction that a westward path to the Indies existed. Columbus stood on the deck of the Santa Maria, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He was aware of the risks ahead, but his heart was steady. This moment was the culmination of years of dreaming, planning, and overcoming rejection. As he gave the order to set sail, the crews hoisted the sails, and the ship slowly began to move away from the shore. The people of Palos gathered along the docks to witness the departure. They waved and shouted farewells, their voices carrying over the water. Some were family members of the crew, their faces a mix of pride and worry. Others were simply drawn by the spectacle, aware that they were witnessing a momentous event. As the ship sailed further from land, the crowd and the port faded from view, replaced by the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. For the crew, the reality of their journey sank in. Ahead lay only the sea, the sky, and the unknown. The excitement of departure gave way to the routine of life at sea. The sailors settled into their tasks, navigating the ships, maintaining the sails, and keeping watch. Columbus navigated by the stars, using the astrolabe and compass to chart their course. Each night, he would study the sky, plotting their path westward. The days passed into weeks, and the vastness of the ocean became their world. The sea was a constant companion, at times calm and at others, showing its might with towering waves and fierce storms. Navigational challenges were a daily reality. Maps of these waters did not exist, and Columbus had only his calculations and instincts to guide him. Doubts crept in as the journey stretched longer than anticipated. The crew grew restless, whispering fears of never finding land, of being lost at sea, or of sailing off the edge of the world. Columbus faced these challenges with a mix of determination and adaptability. He kept a careful log of their journey, noting the winds, currents, and any signs that land might be near. He also managed the crew's morale, sharing his confidence in their mission and reminding them of the rewards that awaited them upon their success. One evening, as Columbus stood at the helm, he noticed a change in the air. The wind carried a warmth they had not felt before, and the sea seemed calmer. Columbus called his officers to his side, sharing his observation. "We are nearing land," he declared, his voice carrying a conviction that lifted the spirits of his men. The following days were filled with eager anticipation. The crew kept a vigilant watch, scanning the horizon for any sign of land. Then, one unforgettable night, a faint light was spotted in the distance. A cry of "land" spread across the ships, igniting a frenzy of activity. Hearts raced as the realization set in. They had reached the new world. As dawn broke, the silhouette of land became visible on the horizon. The crew gathered on deck, their eyes fixed on the sight before them. The emotions were overwhelming. Joy, relief, and a sense of awe at the vast, unexplored land that lay ahead. Columbus and his fleet had embarked on a journey into the unknown, driven by a dream of finding a new route to the Indies. What they found instead was a new world, a place beyond their wildest imaginations. The voyage had tested their courage, their resilience, and their faith in the face of the unknown. Yet, as they prepared to make landfall, they knew that this was only the beginning of their adventure. Setting sail on August 3rd, 1492, had marked the start of a journey that would change the course of history. Columbus and his crew had ventured into the unknown, guided by the stars and the belief that a westward path to the Indies existed. What lay ahead was a world of discovery, of challenges and opportunities that would forever alter their understanding of the world. Chapter 6. Challenges at Sea. The voyage of Christopher Columbus and his fleet into the unknown waters of the Atlantic was marked by a series of challenges that tested the resolve and ingenuity of the entire crew. Life at sea, far from the familiar comforts of land, was a daily battle against the elements and the limitations of human endurance. As the days turned into weeks, the initial excitement of the journey gave way to the harsh realities of life on the open ocean. The vast expanse of water that stretched to the horizon in every direction was both awe-inspiring and daunting. The sailors, many of whom were experiencing such a long voyage for the first time, found themselves confronting fears and doubts. One of the first major challenges the fleet faced was a violent storm. The sky darkened as heavy clouds rolled in, and the sea turned angry and tumultuous. Giant waves battered the ships, threatening to overwhelm them. The sailors worked tirelessly, securing the sails and battening down the hatches, their faces set with determination as they fought to keep the ships afloat. Columbus, ever the steady leader, navigated the fleet with skill, using his knowledge of the sea to steer them through the worst of the tempest. When the storm finally passed, the ships emerged battered but unbroken, a testament to the crew's resilience and teamwork. Navigation was another constant challenge. The vast and uncharted Atlantic offered no landmarks, and the sailors had to rely on the stars and Columbus's calculations to find their way. Mistakes were made, leading to doubts and second-guessing among the crew. There were times when the fleet seemed to be sailing in circles, the monotony of the sea blending one day into the next. Columbus faced these challenges head-on, adjusting his course and learning from each error. He kept detailed logs, charting their progress and using every bit of knowledge at his disposal to guide the fleet towards their destination. The greatest test, however, came from within. As the journey stretched on with no land in sight, unrest began to grow among the crew. Fear and frustration boiled over into heated arguments and confrontations. The sailors, tired and scared, began to question Columbus's leadership and the wisdom of their mission. Rumors of mutiny whispered through the ships, threatening to unravel the fragile unity that had held the fleet together. Columbus found himself facing a crisis not just of navigation, but of leadership. He knew that to quell the unrest, he needed to inspire confidence and renew the crew's faith in the mission. Drawing on his deep reserves of courage and conviction, Columbus addressed the men. He acknowledged their fears and the hardships they had endured, but reminded them of the purpose of their journey and the rewards that lay ahead. He spoke of their shared dream of reaching the Indies and the glory that would come with such a discovery. His words, spoken with sincerity and passion, resonated with the crew, rekindling the spirit of adventure and camaraderie that had launched their voyage. Columbus also took practical steps to address the crew's concerns. He promised rewards for the first man to sight land and instituted a more equitable distribution of tasks and rations. He spent time with the sailors, listening to their grievances and working to resolve them. Through his actions, Columbus demonstrated the qualities of a leader who could navigate not just the challenges of the sea, but the complexities of human nature. The journey of Columbus and his fleet was a journey into the unknown, fraught with perils both natural and man-made. The storms they weathered, the navigational errors they corrected, and the unrest they quelled were all obstacles that could have ended their mission in failure. Yet, through resilience, problem-solving, and leadership, they overcame these challenges. Life at sea taught the crew valuable lessons about perseverance, teamwork, and the power of a shared vision. It showed them that even in the face of the greatest difficulties, the human spirit could prevail. As they sailed on, each day brought them closer to their goal, driven by the hope of discovering new lands and the determination to make their mark on history. Chapter 7. Land Ahoy! After weeks of sailing across the vast and uncharted Atlantic, the crew of Christopher Columbus's fleet had grown weary. The endless expanse of water, once a symbol of their adventurous spirit, had become a reminder of their isolation from the world they knew. The challenges at sea had tested their resolve, and the whispers of doubt had grown louder with each passing day. But amidst the uncertainty, a glimmer of hope remained, a hope that soon they would find the land they sought. It was on the morning of October 12, 1492, as the first light of dawn crept across the sky, that this hope transformed into reality. A lookout perched atop the mast of the Pinta, his eyes scanning the horizon, cried out, "Land! Land!" His voice, filled with excitement and disbelief, echoed across the decks. The cry of "Land ahoy!" rippled through the fleet, igniting a frenzy of activity. Sailors rushed to the sides of the ships, straining their eyes for a glimpse of the promised sight. And there, on the horizon, where the sea met the sky, was a thin line of green. Land, at last. The emotion that swept over the crew was indescribable, a mix of relief, joy, and an overwhelming sense of achievement. They had done it. They had crossed the Atlantic, defying the skeptics and the dangers of the unknown. Christopher Columbus stood on the deck of the Santa Maria, his gaze fixed on the distant shore. This moment, the first sighting of the New World, was the culmination of years of dreaming, planning, and persevering against all odds. It was a testament to his unwavering belief in the existence of a westward route to the Indies. But as he looked upon the new land, his thoughts were not of personal glory. Instead, he was filled with a sense of wonder and a desire to explore the mysteries that lay beyond the shore. As the ships drew closer to the land, the details of the landscape began to emerge. Lush forests stretched out along the coast, their trees tall and vibrant with life. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of earth and greenery, a welcome change from the salty tang of the sea. Birds, bright and exotic, flew overhead, their calls a melody of welcome. The fleet anchored off the coast, and preparations were made to go ashore. The sailors, once weary and doubtful, now buzzed with anticipation. They were about to set foot on land that no European had ever seen before. The significance of the moment was not lost on them. They were part of history in the making. Columbus led the landing party, rowing towards the beach with a sense of solemnity and purpose. As his feet touched the sand, he knelt, giving thanks for their safe arrival. The crew followed, their eyes wide with curiosity as they took in the sights and sounds of this new world. It was a moment of pure discovery, untouched by the conflicts and conquests that would come later. For now, it was enough to simply stand on the shore, looking out at the vastness of the land that stretched before them. The beauty of the new world was breathtaking. The island, which Columbus would name San Salvador, was a paradise of greenery and life. The crew explored the surrounding area, marveling at the unfamiliar plants and the clarity of the water. The land was rich with possibilities, a blank canvas for stories yet to be written. But the most profound discovery of all was yet to come. As the day progressed, the crew encountered the people of this new land, the Taino. These first interactions were cautious, marked by curiosity on both sides. The Taino, with their generosity and openness, offered a glimpse into a world that was as rich in culture and humanity as it was in beauty. The sighting of land on October 12, 1492, was more than just the discovery of a new world. It was a moment that bridged distant shores and changed the course of history. For Columbus and his crew, it was the realization of a dream that had seemed impossible. It was a reminder that the unknown was not to be feared but embraced, for it held the promise of new beginnings and uncharted paths. As the sun set on their first day in the new world, the crew of Columbus's fleet looked out at the horizon with a new sense of purpose. They had ventured into the unknown and found a world beyond their wildest imaginations. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges and wonders, but for now, they reveled in the joy of discovery, the beauty of the land before them, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Chapter 8. Encountering the Taino People. In the lush, vibrant world of the new world that Columbus and his crew had stumbled upon, the land was not the only discovery awaiting them. The indigenous people of the land, the Taino, were about to become a central part of their story, marking a moment of first contact between two worlds that had evolved independently of each other. The morning after their landfall, Columbus and his men prepared to meet the inhabitants of this new land. Clad in their European garb, carrying trinkets and goods for trade, they approached the Taino with a mix of excitement and apprehension. They knew the importance of this moment, the first exchange between cultures so vastly different from one another. The Taino, for their part, were equally curious and cautious. They watched the strangers approach from the edge of the forest, their eyes wide with wonder. The Europeans' ships, clothes, and beards were unlike anything they had ever seen. Yet, despite their differences, the Taino greeted Columbus and his crew with warmth and hospitality, a testament to their culture's openness and generosity. Columbus was struck by the Taino's appearance and way of life. They were gentle people, with rich traditions and a deep connection to the land that sustained them. Their villages were nestled in the heart of the island's lush forests, their homes made of palm leaves and wood. They cultivated crops, fished the rivers and coasts, and crafted beautiful objects from the natural materials available to them. The initial encounters between the Taino and Columbus's crew were filled with gestures of friendship and curiosity. The Taino showed the Europeans their villages, their crops, and their crafts. In return, Columbus presented them with gifts from Europe: beads, bells, and other novelties. These exchanges were not just about the physical items traded, but represented the sharing of cultures, the beginning of a dialogue between peoples. However, the language barrier posed a significant challenge. Neither side spoke the other's language, and much of their communication relied on gestures and interpretations. Misunderstandings were inevitable, yet both the Taino and the Europeans strived to understand each other, driven by a mutual fascination and the potential for friendship and alliance. One poignant moment of cultural exchange was when a Taino chieftain invited Columbus and some of his men to a meal. They sat together, sharing food that was unfamiliar yet delicious to the Europeans. It was a simple act, but it held deep significance, symbolizing a willingness to welcome the stranger and share in the bounty of the land. Columbus observed the Taínos' society, noting their social structure, their customs, and their beliefs. He was particularly fascinated by their ceremonial ball games and their use of a narcotic herb during rituals, aspects of their culture that were entirely new to him and his crew. Despite these peaceful exchanges, Columbus could not fully shed his European perspective, viewing the Taino and their land through the lens of conquest and exploitation. He saw the potential for converting them to Christianity and for utilizing their knowledge and labor in the quest for gold and resources. This underlying tension, the clash between two vastly different worldviews, would come to define much of the interaction between Europeans and the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Yet, in those early days of contact, what stood out was the possibility of understanding and mutual respect. The Taino people showed the Europeans a way of life that was in harmony with the natural world, a community built on the principles of cooperation and sharing. For Columbus and his crew, it was an introduction to a new world in more ways than one, a world that challenged their assumptions and expanded their horizons. The encounter with the Taino was a pivotal moment in the voyage of Columbus, a reminder that exploration was not just about charting unknown lands, but about meeting the people who inhabited them. It was a lesson in the complexity of human interaction, the challenges of communication across cultural divides, and the potential for both misunderstanding and connection. As Columbus's ships sailed on, carrying tales of the New World and its people back to Europe, the legacy of that first encounter remained. It was a testament to the power of curiosity and the uncharted paths that open up when worlds collide. Chapter 9. Exploring the Islands. After their initial encounter with the Taino people, Christopher Columbus and his crew continued their journey, driven by a thirst for discovery and an unyielding sense of curiosity. They set sail from San Salvador, venturing deeper into the unknown waters of the Caribbean, each day bringing the promise of new lands and new wonders. Their voyage led them to explore several islands, each unique in its landscape, flora, and fauna. These islands, untouched by European influence, were like pages out of a storybook filled with exotic beauty and mystery. For the crew, many of whom had never ventured beyond the coasts of Europe, these islands were a revelation, a glimpse into a world that was vastly different from anything they had known. As they explored, Columbus and his men took on the role of early scientists, observing and documenting the natural world around them. They collected specimens of plants unknown in Europe, marveling at their diversity and utility. The crew noted the properties of certain herbs and fruits, some with healing properties that the Taino used in their traditional medicines. The beauty of the Caribbean islands was not limited to their flora. The waters teemed with fish of vibrant colors, and the forests were home to birds with feathers of brilliant hues and melodious songs. Columbus, in his logs, attempted to describe these wonders, though he often found words insufficient to capture the full splendor of what they witnessed. Mapping the land became an essential part of their exploration. With rudimentary tools and limited knowledge of cartography, Columbus and his crew charted the coasts of the islands they visited. These maps were crude by modern standards, but at the time they were invaluable records of their discoveries. sketches of a world previously unknown to European maps. The process of mapping and documenting their findings was not just about claiming the land for Spain or seeking riches. It represented the early stages of the scientific method, an approach to understanding the world that was based on observation, hypothesis, and experimentation. For Columbus and his men, each island was a new experiment, an opportunity to learn more about the natural world and its workings. One of the most significant discoveries was the diversity of the island's cultures. While the Taino were the first people they encountered, Columbus and his crew soon realized that the Caribbean was home to a variety of indigenous communities, each with its own customs, languages, and ways of life. These encounters challenged their preconceptions and broadened their understanding of human societies. Despite the marvels they encountered, the expedition was not without its challenges. Navigating the unfamiliar waters of the Caribbean was fraught with dangers, from hidden reefs that could tear the hull of a ship to sudden storms that could arise without warning. The crew also faced the challenge of limited supplies, relying on the generosity of the indigenous peoples they encountered and the bounty of the land and sea. Yet, with each challenge they overcame, the crew's resolve was strengthened. They were pioneers in a new world, charting a course through unexplored territories, both geographical and intellectual. Their journey was a testament to the human spirit's desire to explore, to push beyond the known boundaries, and to seek understanding in a vast and complex world. As the expedition continued, Columbus and his crew left behind a legacy of discovery that would pave the way for future explorers. They had ventured into the unknown with courage and curiosity, laying the groundwork for the exchange of knowledge, cultures, and resources that would follow. The islands they explored and the maps they created became part of a larger story, one that was just beginning to unfold. In the end, the exploration of the Caribbean islands was more than a chapter in the history of discovery. It was a narrative of human curiosity, of the quest for knowledge and understanding. For Columbus and his crew, the islands were not just territories to be claimed, but realms to be understood, worlds to be appreciated. Their journey underscored the importance of exploration, not just as a physical endeavor, but as a scientific and intellectual pursuit, a journey into the unknown that continues to inspire adventurers and thinkers to this day. Chapter 10. The Santa Maria Wrecks. The journey of Christopher Columbus and his crew had been filled with moments of wonder and discovery as they explored the Caribbean islands. Yet, the adventure was not without its perils. One such peril struck unexpectedly, turning a night like any other into a pivotal moment in their expedition. It was the night of December 24th, 1492, and the Santa Maria, the flagship of Columbus's fleet, was navigating through the treacherous waters near the island of Hispaniola. The crew, weary from their explorations, had grown complacent, and the ship was not watched as carefully as it should have been. Columbus himself, exhausted from the day's efforts, had retired to his cabin for some much-needed rest. In the darkness of the night, a sudden jolt awoke Columbus. The Santa Maria had run aground on a hidden reef, its hull breached by the sharp rocks. The shock of the impact threw the crew into a frenzy. Water began to flood into the ship, and it became clear that the Santa Maria was lost. Columbus quickly took charge, ordering the crew to unload as much of the ship's cargo as possible and transfer it to the Niña and the Pinta, the other two ships in his fleet. The crew worked tirelessly, racing against time to save what they could from the doomed vessel. As dawn broke, The reality of their situation became apparent. The Santa Maria could not be salvaged. It was trapped on the reef, slowly being claimed by the sea. Columbus faced a difficult decision. The Niña and the Pinta did not have enough space to accommodate all the Santa Maria's crew along with the rescued cargo. After much deliberation, Columbus decided to leave a small group of men behind on Hispaniola. They were tasked with establishing a settlement until Columbus could return with help from Spain. It was a decision that weighed heavily on Columbus. He knew the dangers and uncertainties that lay ahead for the men he was leaving behind, but there was no other choice. The survival of the entire expedition depended on it. The men who were chosen to stay behind were a mix of volunteers and those selected by Columbus. They began the daunting task of building a fort from the remains of the Santa Maria, a symbol of their hope and determination to survive. They named it La Navidad, in honor of the day the ship had wrecked. Columbus, with a heavy heart, set sail with the Niña and the Pinta, leaving behind a piece of his fleet and a part of his crew. The departure was a somber moment, marked by the understanding of the challenges that both groups would face apart from each other. The wreck of the Santa Maria was a turning point in the expedition. It was a reminder of the harsh realities of exploration, the fine line between success and disaster. For Columbus, it was a test of leadership, forcing him to make tough decisions for the greater good of his mission. It also underscored the importance of resilience, both in facing the immediate challenges of survival and in pursuing the larger goals of the expedition. The decision to leave crew members behind on Hispaniola was not made lightly. It reflected Columbus's understanding that exploration was not just about discovering new lands, but also about the human spirit's ability to adapt, to overcome adversity, and to forge new beginnings, even in the most difficult circumstances. The legacy of the Santa Maria and the establishment of La Navidad would live on in the stories of the crew and in the annals of history. They were reminders of the risks and sacrifices that come with the pursuit of discovery. For Columbus and his men, the wreck of the Santa Maria was a moment of loss, but also of resilience and hope, a testament to their enduring spirit of adventure. As Columbus continued his journey back to Spain, the memories of the Santa Maria and the men left behind at La Navidad stayed with him. It was a poignant reminder of the price of exploration, a price paid in the hopes of achieving something greater, of reaching beyond the known world into the vast unknown. Chapter 11. Return to Spain. After months of navigating unknown waters, facing challenges at sea, and making groundbreaking discoveries, Christopher Columbus and his crew set their course back to Spain. The journey home was filled with anticipation. Columbus was not only carrying precious cargo of gold and spices, but also the news of his discovery of new lands, an achievement that would forever change the course of history. The return voyage was not without its difficulties. The sea, as ever, was unpredictable, but the experience and resilience gained from their time in the New World saw them through. When the shores of Spain finally came into view, it was a moment of triumph and relief. Columbus had achieved what many had thought impossible. He had found a new route to the Indies, or so he believed, and opened up a new world for Europe. The arrival in Spain was nothing short of triumphant. Columbus and his crew were received as heroes. The news of their discovery spread quickly, igniting a firestorm of excitement and wonder. The streets were filled with people eager to see the man who had sailed to the edge of the world and returned to tell the tale. Columbus was granted an audience with Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. He presented them with the gold, spices, and other treasures he had brought back from the New World. Among the most controversial of his cargo were the captured Taino people, whom Columbus presented as proof of the lands he had discovered. This act, intended to impress the monarchs and secure further support for his expeditions, cast a shadow on his achievements, raising questions about the impact of his discovery on the indigenous populations. The reception of Columbus by the Spanish court was marked by pomp and ceremony. He was lauded for his bravery and vision, and his tales of the New World captivated all who heard them. The Queen and King promised further support for his future voyages, eager to claim the riches and lands he had described for Spain. Yet, amid the celebrations, there were undercurrents of moral ambiguity. The presence of the captured Taino people was a stark reminder of the consequences of Columbus's voyages. It highlighted the beginning of a dark period of exploitation and colonization that would have devastating effects on the indigenous populations of the Americas. Columbus's return to Spain was a turning point. He had opened the door to the age of exploration, setting the stage for other explorers to venture into the New World. His discoveries promised wealth and power for Spain, but also posed ethical questions about the rights and treatment of indigenous peoples. The fame that Columbus enjoyed upon his return was tinged with these complexities. He was celebrated as a hero, the man who had expanded the known world and brought glory to Spain. But the legacy of his voyages would be debated for centuries to come, as the world grappled with the consequences of European expansion into the Americas. In the end, Columbus's return to Spain was a moment of both triumph and reflection. It was a time to celebrate the spirit of exploration and the discovery of new lands. But it was also a time to consider the impact of those discoveries on the people and cultures that had called those lands home long before Columbus set sail. As Columbus looked back on his journey, he knew that his place in history was assured. He had not only reached the New World, but had also initiated a new era of global exploration. Yet the true cost of that era, in terms of human lives and cultures changed forever, would continue to unfold long after Columbus's sails had disappeared over the horizon. Chapter 12. Debates and Preparations. Upon his triumphant return to Spain, Christopher Columbus found himself at the heart of a burgeoning debate that would shape the future of the New World. As preparations for a second voyage began, a crucial discussion unfolded, one that delved into the ethics and responsibilities of exploration and colonization. The news of Columbus's discoveries had spread far and wide, bringing with it tales of rich lands and peoples unlike any Europeans had encountered before. With these stories, however, came questions about the treatment of the indigenous populations, the Taino people. Columbus had met and brought back to Spain. In the royal court and among the public, opinions were divided. Some saw the Taino as subjects to be converted to Christianity and used for the benefit of the Spanish crown. Others argued for a more compassionate approach, emphasizing respect for their rights and autonomy. Columbus, eager to embark on his next voyage, found himself caught in the middle of this ethical debate. While he recognized the potential for wealth and glory that the New World represented, he also grappled with the implications of his actions on the indigenous peoples. As the plans for the second voyage took shape, Columbus proposed to bring missionaries to convert the indigenous populations to Christianity, believing this would also help pacify them. He also spoke of establishing colonies, not just to claim lands for Spain, but to create a bridge between the two worlds. The debates that surrounded these preparations were a reflection of the larger moral questions facing Europe at the dawn of the Age of Exploration. What was the responsibility of the explorers and the nations they represented to the peoples they encountered? How could they justify the imposition of their own values and desires on others? In these discussions, a variety of voices emerged. Some, like Antonio de Montesinos, a Dominican friar, spoke out passionately against the enslavement and mistreatment of the indigenous peoples, calling for their rights to be recognized and protected. Others, driven by greed and the promise of riches, pushed for aggressive colonization and exploitation. Amidst this ethical turmoil, Columbus focused on the practical aspects of his upcoming voyage. He worked tirelessly to assemble a fleet that was larger and better equipped than the first, convinced that the success of his mission would ultimately benefit both Spain and the peoples of the New World. The preparations were extensive, involving not just the provisioning of ships and the recruitment of sailors, but also the gathering of seeds, livestock, and tools necessary for colonization. Columbus envisioned the establishment of a new society in the Americas, one that would reflect the glory of Spain and spread Christianity throughout the lands he had discovered. As the departure date drew near, the debates continued. Yet, amidst the contention, there was also a sense of anticipation. The second voyage represented not just an opportunity for further exploration, but a chance to navigate the complex moral landscape that the discovery of the New World had revealed. Columbus's actions and decisions were a product of his time, influenced by the values and ambitions of 15th century Europe. Yet the questions raised by his voyages are timeless, touching on issues of ethics, responsibility, and the impact of human endeavors on the world. As the ships set sail for the New World, Columbus carried with him not just the hopes and dreams of Spain, but also the weight of the ethical dilemmas that his discoveries had ignited. The second voyage would be a test of not only his navigational skills, but his moral compass, as he sought to navigate the uncharted waters of human rights and justice in a newly connected world. The debates and preparations that preceded Columbus's second voyage serve as a reminder of the complexities inherent in the exploration and colonization of new lands. They highlight the importance of considering the consequences of our actions on others and the need for empathy and respect in all human endeavors. As history unfolded, the legacy of Columbus's voyages would continue to be debated, a testament to the enduring relevance of these ethical questions. Chapter 13. A Second Voyage. Christopher Columbus's second voyage to the New World marked a new chapter in the age of exploration, one filled with anticipation for further discovery, but shadowed by the implications of conquest. This time, Columbus set sail not just as an explorer, but as the harbinger of European colonization. With 17 ships and over 1,000 men, the expedition that departed from Spain in September 1493 was a grand display of ambition and intent. Among the crew were sailors, soldiers, settlers, and priests, each playing a role in Spain's plans to establish a lasting presence in the lands Columbus had discovered. As the fleet made its way across the Atlantic, the air was filled with a sense of purpose. The sailors worked with the confidence of men who knew they were part of a historic mission. The settlers dreamed of the new lives they would build in the New World, while the priests prepared to spread their faith. Upon their arrival in the Caribbean, the sense of wonder that had marked Columbus's first voyage was still there, but it was now accompanied by a more systematic approach to exploration and settlement. Columbus and his men began the task of establishing the first Spanish colony in the New World, La Isabela, on the island of Hispaniola. The encounter with the indigenous peoples, the Taino, took on a different tone during this second voyage. Whereas the first meeting had been marked by mutual curiosity and tentative friendship, the dynamics of power were now more apparent. The Spaniards' desire for gold and resources, coupled with their efforts to convert the Taino to Christianity, introduced tensions and conflicts. The excitement of discovery was still a powerful force. Columbus and his men explored more of the Caribbean, charting islands and coastlines, marveling at the diversity of the landscapes and the richness of the natural world. They encountered new islands, each with its own unique environment and peoples, expanding the European understanding of the globe. Yet the consequences of their arrival became increasingly evident. The establishment of colonies disrupted the lives of the indigenous peoples, as the Spaniards laid claim to their lands and demanded tribute. The spread of diseases, to which the Taino had no immunity, led to devastating outbreaks that reduced their populations. Columbus himself grappled with the dual nature of his mission. He saw the establishment of Spanish colonies as a fulfillment of his dreams and a service to his monarchs. Yet, the challenges of governing the new settlements and managing relations with the indigenous peoples tested his abilities and his vision for peaceful coexistence. The second voyage was a time of contrasts. On one hand, it represented the exhilarating possibility of creating new societies and expanding human knowledge. On the other, it brought to light the harsh realities of colonization, including the exploitation of lands and peoples. As the expedition progressed, the initial excitement gave way to the complex task of navigating these new relationships. The settlers faced hardships, from harsh weather to food shortages, challenging their ideals of prosperity in the New World. Meanwhile, the soldiers and sailors, tasked with protecting the colonies and securing resources, often found themselves in conflict with the Taino. Through it all, Columbus remained a figure of leadership, caught between his duties to his Spanish patrons and his encounters with the realities of the New World. His second voyage laid the foundations for the European presence in the Americas, but also foreshadowed the centuries of struggle and conflict that would follow. The legacy of Columbus's second voyage is a reminder of the profound impact that exploration and colonization have on the world. It highlights the courage and ambition that drive human discovery, but also underscores the importance of understanding and respecting the cultures and environments we encounter. As the expedition returned to Spain, the tales of new lands and the riches they promised fueled further explorations. Yet, the stories of the Taino and the changes brought to their world served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the responsibilities that come with discovery and the need for empathy and compassion in the face of new frontiers. Chapter 14. Challenges in the New World. Christopher Columbus's establishment of La Isabela in the New World was a monumental task fraught with unforeseen challenges. This endeavor marked not just the physical construction of a settlement, but also the laying down of the complex interactions between Europeans and the indigenous people, which would shape the future of the Americas. La Isabela, named in honor of Queen Isabella of Spain, was envisioned as a beacon of Spanish civilization in the New World. However, the reality of building and sustaining a colony far from home quickly set in. The settlers faced harsh environmental conditions with tropical diseases, hurricanes, and the struggle to find fresh food and water. These hardships tested the resilience and determination of everyone involved. One of the most pressing challenges was the relationship with the indigenous Taino people. Initially, the Taino were curious and cautiously welcoming, But it wasn't long before tensions arose. The demands placed on them by the settlers for labor, tribute in gold, and the conversion to Christianity strained relations and led to conflicts. Columbus found himself in a delicate position. He was not just an explorer, but a governor tasked with the welfare of his people and the success of the settlement. His leadership was put to the test as he navigated the complexities of these early encounters. He had to balance the demands of his Spanish backers with the realities of life in the New World, all while trying to maintain peaceful relations with the Taino. The situation reached a critical point when a group of Taino, pushed to their limits, rebelled against the Spaniards' demands. Columbus was forced to respond, and the resulting conflict marked one of the first major clashes between Europeans and indigenous peoples in the Americas. These skirmishes were not just about resources or labor, but represented a deeper misunderstanding and clash of cultures. Despite these challenges, there were moments of cooperation and mutual learning. Some members of the expedition and the Taino people found common ground, exchanging knowledge about agriculture, navigation, and the natural world. These interactions hinted at the potential for a different kind of relationship, one based on respect and mutual benefit. However, the overarching drive for gold and the imposition of European ways of life on the Taino overshadowed these positive exchanges. Columbus was often torn between his vision of peaceful exploration and the pressures to deliver wealth to Spain. His leadership was defined by these contradictions, as he struggled to uphold his ideals in the face of adversity. The establishment of La Isabela and the subsequent challenges highlighted the broader implications of European expansion into the Americas. It was a microcosm of the encounters that would play out across the continent, shaping the histories of both the Europeans and the indigenous peoples. Columbus's experiences in the New World serve as a lesson in leadership in times of crisis. They show the importance of understanding and respecting different cultures, the need for compassion in the face of hardship, and the consequences of decisions made under pressure. His attempts to navigate the complex dynamics of early colonization underscore the challenges that come with breaking new ground and the enduring impact of those efforts on the world. As the story of La Isabela unfolded, it became a testament to the human capacity for endurance and adaptability. But it also served as a cautionary tale about the cost of ambition and the moral responsibilities of those who lead. Columbus's second voyage to the New World was a journey into uncharted territory, not just geographically, but ethically and culturally. It laid the groundwork for the future of the Americas, for better or for worse, and reminded future generations of the complexities of exploration, colonization, and the intertwining of diverse worlds. Chapter 15. A Third Voyage and Discovery of the Mainland. Christopher Columbus, driven by an insatiable curiosity and the unquenched desire to find new routes and lands, embarked on his third voyage to the New World in May 1498. This time, his fleet set a course that would lead them to the discovery of the South American mainland, a significant milestone that would further expand European knowledge of the globe. The voyage began under challenging circumstances. The excitement that had marked Columbus's earlier expeditions was now tempered by the hard realities of colonial ventures and the mounting pressures from Spain to find more wealth in the lands he had claimed for the crown. Yet, Columbus's spirit of adventure remained undimmed. He was determined to explore further, to uncover the secrets of the ocean and the lands that lay beyond the horizon. As the fleet sailed across the Atlantic, navigating the treacherous waters and unpredictable weather, Columbus's leadership was tested once more. He had to maintain morale among his crew, many of whom were disenchanted with the harsh conditions and the uncertain rewards of their journey. Columbus encouraged them with promises of riches and glory. But more than that, he shared with them his vision of discovery, of charting unknown territories and expanding the boundaries of their world. The journey took them to the islands of the Caribbean, where they resupplied and prepared for the next phase of their voyage. Then, following the currents and the stars, Columbus led his fleet to the coast of what is now Venezuela. When they finally sighted land, the thrill of discovery rekindled the excitement among the crew. This was not another island, but a vast continent, with lush landscapes and rivers larger than any they had seen. Columbus believed he had found another route to the Indies, a land of immense wealth and potential. He marveled at the sight of the Orinoco River, correctly surmising that such a massive body of water could only come from a continent, not an island. This realization was a moment of triumph for Columbus, a vindication of his lifelong belief in the existence of undiscovered lands waiting over the horizon. The discovery of the South American mainland was a turning point in the voyage. Columbus and his men explored the coast, encountering diverse environments and peoples. These interactions were marked by a mix of curiosity and tension as the Europeans and indigenous peoples navigated the complexities of first contact. Columbus, aware of the mistakes of his previous voyages, attempted to approach these encounters with a sense of diplomacy and respect. He sought to establish peaceful relations, though the language barrier and cultural differences made communication difficult. Despite the challenges, Columbus's third voyage expanded the European understanding of the world. It revealed the existence of a continent teeming with life and resources, a place of incredible diversity and potential. For Columbus, it was a confirmation of his belief in the vastness of the world and the importance of exploration. However, the discovery also brought new responsibilities. Columbus had to claim the land for Spain, set up markers of possession, and report back on the possibilities for colonization and exploitation. These tasks weighed heavily on him as he grappled with the implications of his discoveries for the indigenous peoples and the natural environment. Columbus's return to Spain after the third voyage was marked by mixed emotions. He was celebrated for his discovery of the mainland, but he also faced criticism for his management of the colonies and the treatment of the indigenous peoples. The third voyage was a testament to his enduring spirit of exploration, but it also highlighted the moral and ethical dilemmas that accompanied the European expansion into the New World. The legacy of Columbus's third voyage is complex. It opened new horizons for European exploration and colonization, changing the course of history. Yet, it also raised questions about the impact of these endeavors on the peoples and lands that were discovered. Columbus's journey to the South American mainland was driven by a quest for knowledge and the unyielding desire to explore the unknown. It reminds us of the power of curiosity and the profound consequences of our quest to understand and shape the world around us. Chapter 16. Accusations and Arrest. Christopher Columbus, once hailed as a hero for his discovery of the New World, found himself embroiled in controversy and conflict upon his return to the colonies. The excitement and promise that had marked his earlier voyages had given way to tension and disillusionment, both among the settlers and the indigenous people. The challenges of establishing and governing the new colonies were immense. Columbus, appointed as the governor, faced the daunting task of managing scarce resources, ensuring the welfare of the settlers, and navigating the complex relationships with the indigenous populations. Despite his efforts, dissatisfaction grew. Accusations of mismanagement, cruelty, and favoritism began to circulate, painting a picture of a leader overwhelmed by the responsibilities of his position. The settlers, many of whom had come to the New World in search of wealth and prosperity, found themselves struggling to survive in the harsh and unfamiliar environment. Their dreams unmet, they directed their frustration and anger towards Columbus, blaming him for their hardships. Reports of unrest and mistreatment of the indigenous people further tarnished Columbus's reputation, attracting the attention of the Spanish crown. In response to the growing reports of mismanagement and abuse, the Spanish monarchs sent Francisco de Bobadilla to investigate the situation in the colonies. Bobadilla arrived to find a situation fraught with tension and conflict. In his inquiry, he heard numerous complaints about Columbus and his brothers, who were also involved in the administration of the colonies. The accusations against Columbus were severe. He was charged with failing to maintain order, with mistreating both the colonists and the indigenous people, and with misappropriating the wealth of the New World for his personal gain. The evidence, as presented by Bobadilla, painted a damning picture of Columbus's governance. In a dramatic turn of events, Bobadilla ordered the arrest of Columbus and his brothers. They were placed in chains and sent back to Spain to face the royal court. For Columbus, the journey back to Spain was a stark contrast to his triumphant return from his first voyage. He was no longer the celebrated explorer, but a disgraced governor, accused of failing in his duties to both his king and queen, and to the people he had sworn to protect. Upon their arrival in Spain, Columbus and his brothers were stripped of their titles and authority. They were allowed to plead their case before the monarchs, but the damage to Columbus's reputation was significant. Though eventually freed from his chains, Columbus found himself sidelined, his authority diminished, and his future expeditions put in doubt. The accusations and arrest marked a significant downfall for Columbus. It was a period of deep reflection for him, a time to consider the choices he had made and the impact of his actions on the New World and its people. Columbus had set out to explore unknown territories and to bring glory to Spain, but his voyages had also led to conflict, suffering, and division. Despite his eventual release and partial restoration of his honors, Columbus's reputation remained tarnished. He was deeply affected by the accusations and the humiliation of his arrest. He spent the remaining years of his life attempting to regain his former status and to justify his actions in the New World. The story of Columbus's accusations and arrest is a reminder of the complexities of leadership and the challenges of governing in uncharted territories. It highlights the fine line between ambition and hubris, between the drive for discovery and the responsibilities that come with power. Columbus's downfall serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of failing to balance the quest for exploration with the ethical considerations of justice, fairness, and respect for all people. In the end, Columbus's legacy is a mixed one. He was an explorer who opened the door to the New World, forever changing the course of history. Yet his leadership was marked by controversy, a testament to the human flaws and moral dilemmas that accompany great endeavors. Columbus's story is not just one of discovery and adventure, but also of reflection on the cost of those achievements and the enduring quest for understanding and reconciliation. Chapter 17: Final Years and Legacy. In the twilight years of his life, Christopher Columbus found himself reflecting on the monumental journeys he had undertaken. Once a navigator dreaming of unknown lands, he had crossed the vast Atlantic, connecting worlds that were previously unaware of each other's existence. Yet, his final days were marked by a sense of disillusionment and a longing for the recognition of his achievements. Columbus's contributions to exploration were unparalleled. He had opened the door to the New World, setting the stage for an era of global exploration and interaction that would reshape the course of human history. His voyages brought Europe, the Americas, and eventually the entire world into a new age of exploration, trade, and cultural exchange. However, Columbus's legacy is complex and multifaceted. In his quest for discovery, he also paved the way for the colonization and exploitation of the Americas and their indigenous peoples. The impact of his voyages included not only the exchange of goods and ideas, but also the spread of diseases, the beginning of transatlantic slavery, and the conquest of numerous cultures. As Columbus reflected on his life, he grappled with the consequences of his actions. He had sailed under the banner of exploration, driven by a desire to find new routes and lands, but the outcomes of his voyages extended far beyond his original intentions. The world he had helped to create was one of both remarkable connections and profound divisions. In the years following Columbus's death, perspectives on his legacy have evolved. He was once celebrated unconditionally as a hero, a visionary who brought together the old world and the new. Over time, however, historians and scholars have begun to examine the darker aspects of his voyages, leading to a more nuanced understanding of his impact. Today, Columbus is seen as a figure emblematic of the spirit of exploration, but also as a reminder of the responsibilities that come with discovery. His legacy is a subject of ongoing debate, reflecting the complexities of historical figures and their actions. Some view him as a pioneer, while others emphasize the suffering and disruption his expeditions caused. Despite the controversies surrounding his legacy, Columbus's spirit of exploration endures. It inspires modern adventurers and scientists to push the boundaries of human knowledge and understanding. The desire to explore the unknown, to learn more about our world and beyond, is a fundamental part of the human experience, a testament to the curiosity and ambition that drove Columbus and countless others. Columbus's final years were a time of reflection on the vast changes he had set in motion. He died not knowing the full extent of his impact, unaware that his voyages would mark the beginning of a new era in human history. His legacy, both celebrated and criticized, remains a topic of reflection and discussion, a mirror reflecting humanity's quest for discovery and the ethical dilemmas that accompany it. The story of Christopher Columbus, with its highs and lows, its triumphs and trials, is a reminder of the power of exploration to change the world. It challenges us to consider the consequences of our actions and to approach the unknown with both courage and caution. Columbus's life and legacy continue to inspire and provoke, serving as a beacon for those who seek to explore new horizons, while also reminding us of the importance of understanding and respecting the diverse cultures and peoples that make up our global community.